Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Life and Love. I'm Adam,
I'm Steph.
and surprisingly, we're still in love.
Yep.
So, for anyone who was able to watch episode 1, we appreciate that. We are now on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, if you guys want to search us out on those platforms, we've got clips as well on the YouTube channel that you can check out. Little small snippets of the podcast just to whet your appetite, and then you can watch the full episodes on there as well. Today we're just going to do a bunch of different things. So we're going to start off with a quote I came across this week, and it said basically, happy is the man who finds a true friend, but even happier is the man who finds a true friend in his wife. Yeah, I mean, I've got friends at work and cousins and family that we hang out with. But for me, I mean, it's great that, my wife is basically my best friend. When I think about, I know people who, they've got lifetime, friends, guys, and they, all weekend long, they want to hang out with them. They go to whatever, playing hockey with each other and all this stuff. But for me, I look forward to either coming home from work to see you and or
How
to
nice.
hang out on weekends. And I'm not planning guys' weekends away, right? I plan weekends away with you, just emotionally connecting with you. For me is just something that I find that I would rather do than necessarily, hanging out with guy friends or constantly doing that.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. For a wife towards a husband too. I know I've said it in the past, like you're my best friend. Like if there's any gossip tea or any drama, you're the first person I tell, right? So
Yeah. And I mean, we see some people who that's not necessarily the case, and you see stuff, you see it in movies and TV shows and all. It's always depicted there where the husband, keeping secrets from their wife or doesn't tell stuff, but
vice versa as well. It can go both ways.
Yeah, and so so that's just a little thing that I came across. Anyone who's listening to this or watching this, let us know your thoughts on that, especially guys. I know there's always a lot of stigma and stuff around guys not talking about their feelings, and how, mental health issues and all that stuff. But it's great if you also have that guy friend or someone that you can, like the quote said, right? Happy is a man who has a true friend, and even happier is if they can find it in their partner, right? And maybe some people, that never happens for them, that their partner isn't their true.
And going back to last week where we were talking about the foundation, I really think that's an important part of that foundation is having that friendship with, your partner, right? Like that, you should always be excited to come home to your partner and tell them about your day and vent and gossip and tell them all the drama, what's going on at work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah, and obviously, building that as you build that foundation, right? If you put that work into building that foundation, just continuing from last week, like you said, as you're building that foundation up, then obviously you guys should become, a true pair where you start thinking, and it's always funny when, say, you know what I'm thinking, and then you'll say it, and I'm like, oh, I was thinking the same thing, right? Kind of,
we always joke like, hashtag soulmates.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we talked a little bit about that last week too, the soulmates too. And I mean, soulmates, what does that really mean, right? Could a guy friend or a girlfriend of yours, be considered a soulmate as well, right? Inseparable. And you see some of that, and then you see, you'll see like the best friends who get pregnant at the same time as each other, or a month apart from each other, right? Or the guy friends who, you got a group of 4 or 5, guy friends, and you all
get married.
You're all kind of do it because you're all in that same mindset, right? So same thing with a relationship with your spouse. If you're on that same mindset and you're connecting and talking regularly, you should be able to, start thinking the same. no different business partners, life, everything, right? Spouses, parents, right? If you're brought up on that same kind of mindset, then you should be able to move forward together and keep improving that relationship together.
Yep, I agree.
So we want to do a little thing today. So am I the a-hole? I'm sure people have seen some of this. So you've got a little story you want to tell right there, and then we're just going to give our opinions on it. So go ahead.
Am I the a-hole for kicking out my unemployed husband? I, 31 female, have been married to my husband, 30 male, for 9 years. We have 2 kids, 5 and 3. My husband became unemployed a month ago, which has been somewhat consistent over the last 6 years. He's lost at least 4 jobs that I can remember. He has had this one for 2.5 years, which is the longest. It was a toxic work environment, I'll give him that, but I'm disappointed that we'll be going through this another job loss again. For the past month, he has been sleeping in until 10 or 11. He's helped occasionally around the house, but honestly, he's just done the bare minimum. His job requires 50 to 60-hour work weeks. So while he was working, he did the bare minimum at home too. So maybe he's just spoiled. He doesn't want to find a job. He has said he wants me to take care of him and he can collect unemployment. I wake up for work every day, Monday to Friday, get the kids up and off to daycare or school, and then I go to work. He's still sleeping. So a couple of days ago, I was cleaning the house and watching the kids as he sat in the recliner watching TV all day. So I started throwing his clothes off to the side. I decided I was done doing his chores around here when he's making a conscious decision to not help with anything. I stopped making him dinner as well, etc., etc. Yesterday, he says to me, as I'm trying to work from home, "How hard is it to just throw my clothes in with yours?" I snapped. I said a lot of probably mean things along the lines of, "He's lazy, I'm not doing your chores when you can just sit there and watch me slave away." I told him if he wasn't going to contribute to our home in one form or another, then he could just leave. He refused. I had called the police and the deputy spoke with him. He still refused to leave. So I left with the kids. I've always been the primary caregiver. I heard him on the phone with his mom, basically her saying that I will never be happy and I expect too much from him. My mind was blown. He texted me a few hours later that I could come home and he was going to go to his parents' house, that he wanted the kids to have their own beds. He came to visit with the kids today and is still holding firm that he could have done more, but he also could have done less. I filed for divorce 2 years ago, but then we decided to reconcile. He says I haven't done anything to change since we've gotten back together, like going on date nights and spending more time together. His love language is quality time and physical touch. Mine is acts of service. I've become distant lately because I am so resentful of him. I don't know what I want if I want to continue this marriage. I do it all myself anyways. Why not lose the burden of him? So, am I the a-hole for kicking him out while he's down? I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking back, so
as a man,
a couple things that comes out there. So I can kind of understand how the guy was feeling there, in between the jobs constantly, right? Toxic work environment, because just for me personally, if I don't have that like a goal or something that I'm kind of striving towards, there's like this depressive feeling that kind of comes across from you. You know, you always have something to look forward to, and you
but
see.
keep in mind it's been consistent.
Well, this is what I'm saying is that unfortunately the guy, he wasn't able to realize himself too that he needs to get those. We were talking about that last year, last week, just talking about like getting some micro wins and stuff under your belt. So that even if work is tough and you're not enjoying work and it's just not appealing to you right now, and it's not getting you excited, if you've got something else that you're doing, if you've got, if you're a fitness goal, you're trying to read a book, you got a video games. I know people talk bad about video games sometimes, right? Because they do they use up your time. But for this guy, just in this mental funk for how many years, right? Never a personal win probably happening to him, especially if he keeps losing jobs, right? And why is he losing these jobs? We don't know, right? Is it just?
I think it's a common denominator here.
Is it lack of skill? Is he? Yeah, but we don't know, because obviously we only told so much in the story, right? But what's happened to him throughout his life? How is he mentally struggling with stuff? Maybe he just gets like crazy anxiety. I don't know if he's in sales or something, right? It just doesn't. Maybe he's just not supposed to be a sales guy, right? Maybe he's not supposed to be a guy that's working on commission. Maybe he just needs to be an hourly guy.
I can see your point. I can see that. But also, he is a full-grown adult. He is a father. Mm-hmm. At some point, you're going to have to be responsible. We hear it so many times that the woman or the mom is the primary caregiver. And I would say that, both of us are primary caregivers. Probably you're a little bit more on the primary side on certain days, and I'm more on the primary side on different days. But for her to work full time, Monday to Friday, and him stay home and not even contribute in the slightest, like, you go to work, I will take care of the kids, get them off where they need to go, do any sort of house cleaning or meal prepping or chores, that's a little ridiculous. I'm sorry. And I'm sure that it was a conversation at some point, and who knows, he may have replied differently. She may have worded it, a little snarky, who knows, but at some point in your life, you're going to have to be responsible. Like, you created two humans, like, you have to be responsible for them. If I get overwhelmed and I need help around the house, I go and tell you, like, I need help, or I need laundry done, or I need this done, right? And he may, while he's down, there could be mental health issues, who knows? But we all have stuff going on in our lives, all of us.
For sure. And that's something where obviously that compounded to the point where now the guy's, maybe he's just become complacent, obviously, the lack of communication, right? So, and it's unfortunate because sometimes people need to be told 20 times, and you may have told them 18, and maybe they just needed that 20th time, right? Of being, and who knows, right? Because everybody, it's, like our kids too, right? Like, you yell at them, you try to be reasonable with them. Like, it just, how many times, who knows how many times, right? You have to keep saying it as many times as you either give up, like in this case, the lady, she got to the point where she broke up with them, and
they filed for divorce. She filed for divorce 2 years ago, right? And then they decided to reconcile. And then he had the audacity to say that she hasn't changed.
Oh yeah, yep.
Right, like, excuse me.
And it's unfortunate where this is just a situation where we obviously don't know that. We talk about the foundation, right? So. How much discussion and talking was done ahead of time, for that.
And everyone also has different beliefs of how they want to have their home and raise their family, right? Like, he may have grown up in a house where mom did all that stuff and was a traditional housewife, right? So when he got married, he probably thought, oh, this is supposed to be my wife's job,
and there was
right?
a comment there, right, from the mother-in-law, right, saying that she's being too harsh and stuff, right? So maybe that was, and I was thinking about this earlier. We were at the grocery store, and you see everybody working, and you're thinking about the cost of living and the cost of houses, and one thing we got away from decades ago at this point, right, where it used to just be where one person worked.
Yeah.
right? And the other person could stay home. In most cases, yeah, it was the mom who stayed home, but there was always
But
those
we also have to acknowledge that women's wages back then probably, weren't
and
sufficient
the jobs
enough,
that
right?
they were doing, right? But obviously you had, a lot of women were nurses, and you had some, managers or
In the
in
village,
some
right? The village around them
yeah.
could have been a
Yeah,
lot bigger,
exactly, right.
right?
And a lot of people now, so you see this a lot in the States, especially, right, where people, they go away for school and they just stay there, right? So now your support system isn't there anymore. We don't know, how close these guys are to their parents, or their
Yeah.
parents helping them over the years, right? What kind of lifestyle did the wife grow up on versus the husband, right? So there's all these questions that way. And you just think about, as we've, you wonder why like things cost as much as they do, right? Like why can you afford a house, that's, six, 700, eight. Well, you can't afford it unless you have two incomes.
Yeah.
But, if we never had two incomes, a two income family in the first place, that no one would have been able to afford $1 million house, which means we'd never built $1 million houses, which means we would have just kept building this, the same small houses that are there. But like talking about the village aspect of, it takes a village, that's the saying, right? It takes a
Yeah.
village. Um, just give your opinions on having that support structure around you, where even, if I'm working or away on weekends for work or something, just talk about how the support system around you, having that village around you, has helped you.
Yeah. It's like no different than when at our last house, when we were living in constant renovation, constant construction. I would literally spend weekends going to my parents while he was working on whatever it was at the house. So that was our life for, I don't know, a good year maybe or so, or even more. I would take the kids over, and that was my little escape, right? So my mom would watch the kids, and I would just like, I would be able to watch TV in silence while she watched the kids and was able to eat a hot meal. So the village is important. Yeah, we don't know if there was a village there, but
Yeah. And you just think, like we want to paint the house this weekend. We did that once, right? Call your
yeah,
mom up, hey, can the kids come sleep over at your
yeah,
house? We can paint the house, and then that way you're not worried, right? You're not running around chasing kids,
yeah,
trying to keep them out of my area. The kids want to see what I'm up to,
yeah,
this and that, right? And then of course, you're trying to get stuff done, and you're under the wire to get things done. You want
yeah,
things done in a certain amount of time, and everything always takes longer than you think, and then it's just a stressful situation. And I mean, who knows, right? With this family, we're just talking about the same thing, right? Like, there's a guy looking for a job, and he's at home. It's just a stressful situation, right? And
well, he's not looking for a job.
well,
He
yeah,
he literally just
anymore,
said like,
anymore.
you can take care of me,
Yeah,
right? Like, but didn't offer like, in exchange for you working full time, let's see if we can be a one income household first of all. You know, especially that'll save on like daycare costs. But it just sounds like he wanted no part of caregiving of his children. Like it just sounds like he just wanted to be at home and not work and not contribute. So, and that the mental load of just that gets added on to the mom's plate now, right? Like she essentially has a third child. That's that's ridiculous.
So let's think about, if you could go back now as a wife and a mother. If you could go back now, knowing what you know now, would you choose to work, a full-time or part-time job as a recent, mother, like, go back after you had your first kid, second kid, third kid? I know people, go, women's rights and women
Yeah,
empowerment and all
yeah.
this stuff, right? And would you, thinking about all that, like, would you have wanted to be a stay-at-home mom now, thinking back?
Thinking back now, I don't think I would mentally survive being a stay-at-home mom full time. Especially during the first 5 years. I don't know if anyone else's kids were crazy, but like our three kids were crazy, right? Like there was just a lot of energy. It's just a lot of time. Um, not that I'm complaining, but I just don't think I would mentally be okay doing that for like 5 years or 18, because some people are stay-at-home parents or stay-at-home moms or dads for an extended period of time, right? Like if I had known like, hey, the finances, if we didn't have that village around us, our parents are very close to us, so if I did not have the village and had to be a stay-at-home mom, I would. But I honestly think our relationship probably wouldn't be the same. Like, I think I would have really needed to rely on you to make sure that I was mentally okay and making sure that our relationship is okay. I think I probably would have needed a lot of reassurance um, to make sure that everything was okay. But no. Kudos to all the stay-at-home parents that do it and enjoy doing it. I just don't think I would cope well. I think you would. You would, if I was the breadwinner, I would gladly work full time for you to stay home, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, with the advent of as technology continues to increase and stuff, right? Obviously, there's more and more opportunities for people to work at home. Like obviously, this lady was working from home, right, and managing the kids. More and more people are working from home. There's all sorts of different options out there. So, who knows? Yeah, for us back then, who knows what we could have possibly done in that at that time frame for sure. Yeah. Like I wish I could stay home and hang out with the kids and take them places, and but I just have a different mindset, I guess, as well on it. But I mean, obviously, it's crazy and hectic. Like if you go somewhere or you go on a trip or away for a couple days, oh yeah, like it's back into like it for like a day, it hits where it's like, oh my God, this is like going crazy because then again, right? So
and then they get sick, right? Like the kids get sick and then it's like, oh my God, I have to do with this.
You think like, let's say after work, we've got, 2 hours of household chores. All of a sudden now you're not there helping. So now it's 4 hours.
And everything just work. Like accumulates. It snowballs, right? And it just becomes bigger until, it explodes. And then that usually results in an argument, right?
And then, I mean, obviously in, this case we read about where the guy actually is there, but not helping, right? Yeah. And probably helped a little bit before, but then, he just got lazier and lazier as it went on. And then not picking up, obviously not helping out and then picking up the slack. Cause the thing is, if you're not feeling good or you're extra tired or whatever, right? You got to work late at work. Yeah. And then, I see there's dishes in the sink. I just do the dishes so that they're not there the next day, right? Because the worst is when you get behind on certain chores like dishes or laundry, right? Because you never stop they're always made.
I know. Right? Every time I do laundry,
especially when they're home too. Your laundry or your dishes, right? The kids are home from school over Christmas, right? So now your dishes are more and more because they're not at school eating. Same thing, they used to go to my parents or your parents, before school or whatever. All of a sudden, you got more dishes. So, there's all these different times too. So if you're not getting that help, and you're not helping share the chores and then getting your kids to help out as well, when they're age appropriate for different chores, all of a sudden, it's just more and more work. And if you're not helping, I mean, it gets hectic with the kids with sports and activities that they have.
Is she the a-hole?
No, of course not in this situation.
I agree. She is not the a-hole.
We don't know what led up to it, and what was said and how it was said over the years, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could say,
but knowing what we know now, like that is just said in
and
here.
that I mean, looking at that was just a relationship where we don't know. I don't think it was ever going to succeed.
I agree
because of the situations, the life situations that they're in. and just their personality situations as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the guy's not willing to change or pivot, and then obviously, yeah, the lady's not willing to put up with it, right? And put it.
But I also don't feel like she should have
exactly,
to,
but
right?
exactly, but
she's
I mean,
already doing it all on her own right now.
well, that's what I'm saying is
like,
that so she does she's not willing to take on a higher burden,
yeah.
right? And obviously their relationship together isn't strong,
Yeah.
unfortunately, right? So going back to building that foundation, and you know what I mean? It's.
Do you think that if he would put in the effort, that that relationship could be saved?
For sure, and maybe that's what we talked about. You know, like what number are they at? So let's say they were always like a 6.5, like arguing every time, but whatever, right? Better than nothing, you know, kind of mentality. And you know what? And he's good with the kids. So maybe as a dad hanging out with his kids, he was, you know, a 7.5, you know, when he was being present. And but all of a sudden, like their relationship obviously is like a 2 or a 1, right? Like personally, right? And then, you know, and so mentally the guy's probably at a 2, doesn't have a job, right? So, you know, he's got no outlook, no positive outlook on his life. And obviously, yeah, his relationship was hitting rock bottom for how long as well, right?
Yeah.
And it's all compounding to the point where, like, yeah, they'll never. It would take a miracle, and I don't just think that those two people's personalities will just never work. And
I agree.
And she's gonna hold resentment, and he's gonna hold resentment. So yeah, unfortunately, in that case,
I think once you reach that resentment stage, it's very difficult to come back.
And it's
from
the
it,
and it's
right?
the same at business and work, right? It's just that one thing that just ticks you off.
Yeah, and then that's it, you're done.
You can just never come back, right? And you could work at a company for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Or a partnership where, you know, someone just does something and it just gets a breaking point, right? So, you know, someone drops the ball a couple times, you got to pick up the slack.
Yeah. Or not, and it also is in terms of like work, like in terms of work, yeah, you can reach that stage where you just don't care anymore, right? And you're just not going to let it bother you. But in terms of a relationship, if you're already at that stage where like you're done, like the gloves are off, why even stay? Like she's already doing it all on her own anyways.
Yeah.
You know, her life will be less stressful without him. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, if he can't even put his clothes in the hamper, do some dishes, get the kids ready for school, right?
Yeah, and you wonder just like, like the breaking point, right? Like, you know, you can't even put my clothes in the wash, right? Which, you know, it does seem like a menial thing, right? To end, you know, a little bit, but you know, she's being petty. You would think
she's being petty
in that
but
way,
rightfully
right?
So.
Yeah,
I'm okay with her doing that because, you know, he was quick to bring it up, but did not recognize like, hey, I've been home.
Mm-hmm.
I get to sleep in. She works full time. She's getting up early, has to get herself ready. 2 kids, get them off to 2 probably different places because they're 2 different ages. So one's at school, one's at daycare. They're paying for daycare.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like daycare ain't cheap. So the fact that he can't even watch the littlest one is ridiculous in my opinion. I do not think she is the a-hole. Yeah. I think she should just do it on her own. She's already doing it right now anyways.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is unfortunate, right? So
it really is.
And it went on for whatever, how many years, right? 6 years or 7 years, whatever. They're dealing with that, right? Or 6, 7 times, whatever. The guy hasn't been without a job. So it's unfortunate, right, for the whole situation. And I mean, you see it more and more. But
even to be in and out of jobs like 6 times over the 9 years that they were married or together, like at some point you have to see like maybe I'm the problem.
Oh yeah, well,
Right?
and how many people do you know that, they say, "Oh, my boss is a jerk," and then they hop to the next job. My boss is a jerk. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't get along with my coworkers, and then over and over and over again. So you really have to do a lot of self reflection,
A lot of
which a lot of people
self-reflection.
don't. And
Yeah.
we just touched on a little bit on the last episode, right? About like green light, green light. You just nonstop, right? Boom, boom, boom. And I mean, I've lost focus like that.
I think we all have it. And I think that's normal. It's like human nature,
Right.
right?
And it's like, I say freedom is the answer, right? There's a quote, right? It's like, if you're able to, take your kids to school and have lunch date with your wife every once in a while and see your kids, hit a home run in baseball, like you're doing pretty good in life.
Yeah.
But we all think that it's more money, right? So in this case, right, both people were working, obviously stressed with the kids, money's probably tight. You got daycare, and you've got 2 vehicles and all these things that are increasing the stress in your life because you need more money. So that means you got to work more. So you're trying to make more money. And I was that way, just constantly trying to work more and more hours, thinking, this is how we're going to get ahead, right? But really, when you think about it, like, you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 5% raise every year at your jobs. That's just standard.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, you're never going to get ahead because your kids keep getting bigger, so they eat more food, and it's just, we're just stuck in this hamster wheel.
It's the hamster wheel, yeah.
Just around and around. And then, like I said, it wasn't until I stopped, started concentrating on myself, spending that time, every day, going for a 20 or 30-minute run, and just reflecting and thinking back, and then looking at the bigger picture and going, okay, where are we at right now? Like, 10, 15 years of the same job, and we're at the same, we're worse now.
Yeah, we're no
right?
further.
You got, because you need the bigger house, you need a bigger car, because you got a 5-seater car, now you need a 7-seater, you got 3 kids, you got car seats, you got all this stuff, so now you need bigger cars. And then it's just compounding stress until you can hopefully figure out a way to either break the cycle, reduce your income, or reduce what you need to your living expenses, increase your income or reduce your living expenses, right? But if increasing your income means less time with your family and your kids and your wife,
you have to really weigh the
options. So what is
right?
that, right? So now we're going back to, having, is it worth having 2 people working, right? Can one person, work, 60 hours a week, even if you do have a second job or something, right? 60 hours a week, depending on what it is.
Or like a part-time evening job,
right?
Or something on weekends, like retail. Like, it's not the greatest money per hour, but at least, while the main breadwinner works during the day, let's say, then once that person's home, they take over parental duties, and the other person goes out for their part-time job, whether it be like working the evening shift at a retail store, or whatever the case may be.
And that's, again, right, where we get in these situations where we need those two incomes. And I think that's even worse when, like, my parents worked opposite shifts for years. My younger brother and sister were born. But then, like, but then that means one partner's working at night when the kids are having their sports. So now, again, you're a single parent, right? So you either work too much and you're a single and you're a single parent, or you have to do the off shifts, and then again you're still a single person. And I think it's
it's a little bit worse because you're not really seeing seeing your partner.
You never get to see each other. Hopefully on weekends, or you go on vacations. But then at that point, what are you, right? You're just basically friends,
roommates.
You're roommates that work opposite shifts, right?
Roommates.
And you're just balancing the kids. It's no different if you had a dog or something that you shared, right? You're just bouncing the kids back and forth, which is unfortunate. So, like, we really got to look. And I was just talking to someone recently about this, and they're like, I'm working, and now I can't make it to the kids. Same thing, right? Like, they can't make it to the kids' sports every day, right? I mean, okay, well, the thing is, just don't be in a management position anymore.
Yeah.
And then you can.
If it's that,
But,
if it's really
right?
important to you to make sure that you are at your children's activities or whatever sports, if it's that important to you, at some point you're going to have to make sacrifices, right? It's like how I worked for 10 years in a clinic setting, making less money. Yeah, I made less money, but my work life balance was optimal,
That's what you
right?
say now, right? Like your position at the hospital, you're home by like 5 or 6, depends on what it is, right?
What shift I
So,
do.
and same thing, right? Like I, work till after 4, usually most days. Some days it's a little bit longer, depends on where I am. But,
Yeah.
and then also shifting the start dates, the start times as well, right? So, if I got a job site out of town, I have to go look at. If I leave my house at 5 or 6 in the morning, I can start my day earlier, right? Because I'm onto these sites,
Yeah.
around like 7 or 8, and then so that means I can be home at 4.
Yeah.
No problem, right? Because I left earlier, right? So yeah, and then that just means
It's not so bad now that the kids are a little bit older, but when they were younger, yeah. Like if you could be home like shortly after they were done school, it was really really nice to have, especially around the dinner time. But yeah, I'd say it's, if it is important to you to be able to want to see your kids at their activities, their sports, there has to be some sort of compromise or a sacrifice. Whether that is you don't take that promotion to be a manager, you don't take that new job position that makes more money, but also is using up more of your time, right? So it's all about, work life balance. But yeah.
yeah, and I know a lot of people talk about what is a work life balance, um, and I heard one person talk about how they don't measure it in like throughout their day or their week, but in their year. So they're like, how much out of this year was I working? How many
Oh,
times was
okay.
I able to hang out with my kids, right? Like, and there's
Do they do it like a mathematical
well, they're
like
just like they're just
percentages?
looking just roughly on the year. Like, okay, so we
Okay.
got 2 vacations.
Oh, that way.
I
Okay.
saw a bunch of the kids. Yeah, we had some late night meetings, and I didn't get to see all the kids' baseball games, but I went to
Yeah.
80, 90%. Um, and I remember I was at a work. I was at a networking event the one time too, and our son had soccer, and you're like, it's okay, I'll take him to soccer.
Yeah.
And anyways, I was like, oh no, I'll make sure so I did. I left in time and got there just in time for the game, right? So sure, I could have
Yeah.
missed it, and right, and so I mean, he's got whatever 8, 10, 12 games throughout the year. So I mean, yeah, if you do miss that one,
But I also think it's for us, it's really important for us to show up for our kids.
Mhm.
Like I want to make sure that I'm there so when my kid looks out, at the spectators that he knows that we're there. Um, and we're there supporting them.
And
Um,
also like I mean, we look at this example right there, right? So I mean, the kids see that their dad's just sitting around not helping,
yeah.
right? And so yeah, obviously we want to be a positive role model for our kids and show like, look, yeah, we take you to the games, right? And we make sure like, all the kids were playing soccer in the summer there. So you're juggling all over, right? So so we alternate who takes so and so if they were at different fields, right? But then we'd
Yep.
always, in most cases, we'd meet up afterwards, right?
Yep.
Because the two youngers were usually done first, and we'd go over there. But yeah, it gets crazy when you have 3 kids at 3 different age groups, and yeah, if you're
Well, it's
work,
even now like they're at three different schools. They have three different start times and different finish times at school. So, it's
they can't be picked up and whatever, right? So
and we do like to drive them to school. Yes, we may spoil them that way, but you know, I never got that as a kid growing up. Like I always had to walk or take the bus. So, I want to be able to, show the kids like, just because you have a day off doesn't mean you don't try and be helpful to other people. So I always say, if I'm home, I will take you to school. I will pick you up. I have no problem doing that because I enjoy doing that. Like especially in the winter time. Like if I can pick them up so that they don't have to walk the 15 minutes home in the cold, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
And then that just goes back right to the point where I was talking before about, what is the freedom? What is your life? And this is something you really need to talk about. We never really talked about this, leading up to us getting married, and what that was, what the family unit was going to look like, what work was going to look like.
we did that like marriage prep course to get married in a Catholic church. I don't think they ever talked about.
Yeah, and nobody does talk about that, in that, what is it going to look like? And I wish we would have thought about that. Like we wouldn't have bought our house, even though we made some money off our first house, and then bought our second house, which kind of got us into real estate investing. But yeah, I would have bought a cheaper house. I would have bought that semi or that townhouse, which we looked at originally, right? And then everyone was
and I loved. I still remember us touring that townhouse.
And it was like $220,000,
and it was a 4-bedroom. It was a beautiful, beautiful, big. It was wide for being a townhouse. And I remember looking at it, going like, I can picture myself here. And I don't know what it was that threw you off. Was it the fact that it was a townhouse?
Yeah, and then everybody around us was also saying like, no, don't invest in a townhouse. Invest in, why not get and we could have, right? So that's the whole thing, right? You do the mortgage analysis, and you can get the house. You can get the house that's 260, 280. Yeah. Right. So why not buy a full house, right? So we did that, right? We looked at some older houses too, and I was kind of fixated on, having this. I liked
the majority of the older houses we looked at too.
Energy, and especially some of the ones just down the street from where we are right now. And I looked at some of them too, right? And you got these lower basements and stuff, which is great for a wood shop or a workshop or just something, right? That you can kind of
man cave.
But and then obviously, and we did what we did, and we survived, and we were lucky again. But we had that foundation too, based off of the the previous 6 years we were together before we got married. But again, looking back, I would have said what do we want? Yeah, cool. You don't have to work. I don't have to stress about, if we would have bought, that cheaper house, I don't have to stress about trying to get a promotion or working extra hours,
You would take yourself off that hamster
working
wheel,
the weekends.
Right?
Yeah. I would have just
said, literally walk off the hamster
I would just,
wheel.
back then, like at a $200,000 mortgage, like the payments were like $1,000 a month. Right. But then it's like, ooh, I want a bigger house.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want to
get fixated.
I want to go
young.
on more because everybody around you is doing that, right? These guys are going on all these multiple vacations, right? As opposed to, we could have just bought a cheaper house, bought older cars. I had my little Corolla, but then, then we got a car with a car payment, right? So now you've got a car payment, right? And it's just all these things start compounding.
Yeah.
And then you get in the rut where you're at, right? And then
again, hamster wheel.
You lose a job, right?
Yeah.
Stressful, toxic work environment, all these things that can add up. And then all of a sudden you're, divorced and hating each other. Yeah. And can you ever recover, right? Hopefully, them splitting up, maybe that's what they needed, right?
And I think a lot of people don't realize as they enter a partnership and a marriage and, whatnot, that marriage is the most expensive thing you will do in your life if you decide to get married. And if it doesn't work out, it is the most expensive thing. It'll cost you half of your life, really. Like if you think about it. So you just got to really make sure that foundation,
and not even just you're talking money wise, but it can cost you just mentally.
Oh yeah,
like not having the right partner. It could just be a downward spiral for everybody, right? So taking that time to discuss these.
Yes, granted, there might be situations where your only choice is to leave, like infidelity, other things.
But hopefully, if there's anyone young out there that isn't married or thinking about getting married, that you take that time to really think about, what does your life look like? What do you want it to look like? where do you want to live? Like, we were lucky, you know, our first house was, you know, in a different school area from my parents, but our second house was in, which is why we kind of moved to that area in the first place. Not only was it set up as a duplex so we could rent out the basement, but it was close to my parents as well. So we knew that the kids could just walk to, you know, my parents after school, which was great in the sense that they were able to have that relationship with my parents. So, I mean, our middle son, well, he likes to, his schools after, you know, coming home, he passes right by our youngest kid's school. So sometimes he'll stop off at my parents' house and grab some cookies or candy or whatever from my dad or something that's there, right? So it's cool for them that they get to still have that relationship.
And I also think it's an important relationship. If you're able to have that village around you and you're able to utilize your village, it is so important for your children as well. Like, you know, I never grew up with grandparents. Like, my only grandparent, my grandmother died when I was in grade 6. So, like, you know,
sure. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have that either, really. By the time I was, you know, in grade 8, I think.
I also remind the children, like, you guys are so lucky to have grandmas and grandpas, like, you know. And
they were I mean, I just think, you know, like, we would see like I had a set of grandparents, my dad's parents. My mom's mom had died early, and we didn't see her dad ever. And so, but yeah, like, I mean, I don't really have any times where, you know, they were taking me out sledding or to the store really much, right? Like, we'd go and visit them, and that was it. But you think about, you know, how their mindset was, and how were they with their grandparents, right?
It's true.
You know, there's a thing, you know, don't be mad at your parents, be mad at your grandparents, because they made your parents, right? So whatever trauma or stresses they had growing up, which we try to make sure, right? Like we can joke around with our kids, and we're stern with them, and they get yelled at and punished if they don't do their.
They think we're strict,
and do their dishes
we don't
and
think
stuff,
we're strict,
right? But I mean, you can also complain about our kids, like, oh, my kid's lazy and this and that.
Yeah.
But you know what though? I'm happy that my kids never have to worry about. They never have to hear us, you know, fighting over, like, where are we going to get money for groceries, and worrying about, you know, like, struggling to make that extra dollar or two so they can go to the store and you know, buy candy or something, right, as a treat. Like, they're spoiled, but you know what though? How are they going to be with their kids
if they decide to have children?
How are they going to be with their kids? You know, like, we're pretty good with our kids, but we can see, obviously, we reflect and see our faults and try to change things and try to do more activities with the kids, whether it's taking them to the movies or, you know, you guys want to go sledding or.
I think it's really good to be that self-aware, to be like, I know I'm a good parent, and these are things I need to work on, and this is what I do well. And
I you know, some people say, like, oh, you shouldn't give your kids everything, you know, that you didn't have, right? But how awesome is it, though, the fact that we can?
Yes.
Right? That our kids have their own PlayStations, and they've got, you know, TVs to play, and they don't have to worry. Like, I mean, they don't have to grind hard like we did. Like, I just remember, like, saving like $2 at a time to be able to buy a video game, you know, one video game at the end of the year. And so, you know, what other things can we give our kids to help them excel that much faster?
True. Yeah. I also think on the thing when you were talking about, like, oh, we give our kids everything, but isn't it awesome that we can? It's like the important thing is, you know, we do give our kids, you know, I would say 95% of what they would like. But I also, you know, tell them, like, you guys should be grateful for this, because there's, you know, so many kids and families and people out there that don't have this. So I also try and teach them a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of empathy, just so that they realize, like, you know, the world isn't a give me, give me, give me. Like, it's a give and take.
Well, and you know, you said, I'll just talk about one thing. Like you said, like, I know, I mean, I was working like so many crazy hours. We got this investment property. We're gonna make all this money on it in the future, right? And you even said, like, the kids and I didn't ask for this, similarly, the kids aren't asking for us to, right? They didn't ask. They didn't ask to be born, right? Like there's people, right? Like they sued their.
Oh my God.
They sued their parents because they didn't ask to be born, right? There was just a thing, we were watching a movie the other day, right, where the guy's like, I never asked to be born. The kids never asked for us to provide them with all this stuff too, right? So for us to say you should be grateful for this, well, they never asked for it as well. So I mean,
well, I don't tell them that they should be. I just say, in today's world, just so you guys know, like not every family can give this to their children. So I try and relate the importance of, like I don't want them to be entitled. I think that's my end goal. Yeah. Like I want them to realize like, there's going to be times where you're going to have to put some hard work and energy and focus into something to get what you want out of it.
Yeah. And our, I mean, we're lucky. Even our kids say it, right? Like their friends want to come over to our house because we have, like, we've got a nice house. We've got a big basement they can hang in, video games for them to play in, backyard with a pool and a hot tub that the kids can play in. So we've got a lot of stuff here, but again, what did it take, right? It took hard work,
dedication,
and we're still working
and communication, right? Communication. Like it's keeping that constant, clear communication.
And I mean, we wouldn't be in this spot again, like, right? Like reflection with each other, right? So take that time to reflect. Don't just go from, job to job, promotion to promotion, to bouncing back and forth, right? Which I was doing, right? There's a saying I like to say, let my mess be your message, right? We struggled. Hopefully, if you're struggling right now, like take some time, reflect. If your relationship is bad with your kids, like, I was a delinquent father in a sense that I was working so much, so not hanging out with the kids as much, right? And then you lose sight of that. And just being more present in their lives and asking more questions. All of a sudden, it doesn't take long for them. Like people forget fast, right? When things get good, right? So if you're sitting there joking around with your kids and, they go from, having an angry face when you're around to asking where you are and wanting to talk with you and see what's going on. So, just a lot of communication, reflection, and this is like where we talk about like work. You have to try something to, and then you fail, you pivot, you rebuild. No different, right? Like we were talking, right, about, posting on social media. You one day, your video gets 1,000 views. The next day you get 2, right? And then why did it get a 2, right? Same thing. Why is your kid angry at you? Why is my wife angry at me right now? What did I forget to do, right?
Because all you're seeing is the emotion, right?
Well,
so like you have to figure out what's behind the
work
emotion.
is the same, right? Why did I get a bad raise? Why didn't I get that promotion? I think that's just the whole thing, and that's just society we're living in, right? Yeah. Again, work, get an extra job, get a third job, get a fourth job, money. We need money. We're stuck in a hole, and so it's just this one. And where did that come from, right? Came from society, and our
internet, right?
And and we think about like, we got to work lots, right? Okay, your parents are telling you to work lots, especially we're 39. Our parents' generation, was like lower blue collar, right? And that was everybody, right? Because you think about like they're baby boomers and just after baby boomers, right after a war, there were depressions, there were housing crises, all these things. And so so unfortunately they had to suffer to a certain level for us to get to where we are.
Yeah.
And we suffer and struggle to get to where we are.
Yes.
Right? And now hopefully our kids will have to suffer and struggle a little bit less so that they can just jump up that little bit more than where we were.
Yeah.
And hopefully not have to drop back, right? And they always say like there's like so many generations and then one always drops back.
Yeah.
But you want to make it so that you're telling them too, right? And always progressing.
Go forward.
Always progressing forward.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen unless you're sitting here and talking and discussing these things and reminiscing. Just as we're talking right now, this is bringing up thoughts to me, right? Just having that time to yourself, right? 20 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes once you come home. Like sometimes I'll do that where I like, okay, before I go into the house, boom, I'm just going to finish checking my email. So I'll sit in I'll sit in the
So that's what
I
you
sit
do
in the truck.
car.
I will sit in my truck for like 5 or 10 minutes when I come home.
Because I'll be at the window being like, what is he doing?
And for me, it's like, okay, what do I got to do here right now? Or even when I come home from the gym, it's the same thing. Like, okay, I had a thought process going on. Before I go inside, let me just check real quick. Check my emails. Quick couple, like, okay, got to do a quick post on social media. Boom, send that out.
Yeah.
And, yeah, check something real quick. Maybe I had a note or something. I like to just, like, as I'm, like, working throughout the day or something, just like, hey, Siri, whatever,
Yeah.
make a quick note. It just, hopefully the phone didn't just do something. Right? Make that quick note. And then, okay, boom, done. Switch the mindset. And here we go.
Yeah. I used to do that, especially during the pandemic. I would say, like, I'm going to go lay down for like 30 minutes. Like, I just really needed that 30 minutes of like silence because, work is very noisy. It's very busy. It's very hectic. I just needed like the 30 minutes to sort of decompress and be like, I know that there's things that need to get done. I know that there's dinner that needs to get started, but I just need 30 minutes where no one is calling me. There's no beeps, there's no sounds. It's just quiet.
Yeah, and you think I had a supervisor I worked with, and one day 2 of the guys I was working with, they were at training. And so I'm just working away. I was doing some concrete forming and stuff, and I'm just working away. And then before I knew it, it was like 11 o'clock. I was like, oh, shoot. And then anyways, I went up for a break. And the super's like, oh, you didn't want to take a break? I was like, I was just working, so I just lost track of time. He's like, the work will always be there, so take that break.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, relating it back to...
I always say that at work, too, because, like, in healthcare, it's a good day. It's a good shift if we get our breaks. There are days where I've worked, 10 plus hours and I've gone pee like once, right? So, and it wasn't until one of the senior nurses are like, if you quit, your job posting is going to be there. If you die, guess what they're going to do? They're going to replace you. So make sure you take your breaks. Make sure you take your PTO,
Yeah, and it never stops. Same thing.
Yeah.
Kids, work, at home, never stops, right? So if you're not taking those breaks, we talked about that, right? Planning ahead for vacations and stuff, because there is going to be that mental break. And then, of course, you come back from vacation, especially if you got kids, and then it's hectic, too, because now you got to do laundry and all that stuff.
Bonus if the place you go to has laundry.
Which is one thing, yeah, you talk about like going away on like an all-inclusive or something, right? Like, yeah, we did a Sunday to Sunday, and then then your plane's delayed, and obviously get back to like the middle of the morning. And then you got to work a couple hours later. But yeah, it's planning that, right? So yeah, instead of going for 7 days somewhere, just do the 6, just do 5. Yeah. And that way you've got it. You can take a break. You can have 2 days to decompress.
Yeah.
When you come home. And same thing with like works too. Like you see just like, you see like, let's say your site supervisor on a project and you finish one project, and sometimes the guy's got to jump into another project before they're even done the other one. They get no time to decompress, right? You just imagine what that builds up on you. Same thing. Like, yeah, like you're talking about in healthcare, right? You're in the pandemic and you're on call every other night and every other weekend because you're short people. And yeah, you don't get that break. And same thing. Yeah. If your partner's working crazy hours, or all of a sudden, they always work crazy hours, and you've taken on more work just because that's what the times are calling for.
Yeah.
And now again, right? So now you're compounding, and it's the wrong kind of compounding.
Yeah.
Right? Consistently doing anything has a compounding effect. So whether it's good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Substance abuse issues, right? That's how all of a sudden you get to that breaking point, right? But if you can spin that into a positive thing, right? Yeah. So like a daily workout, daily exercise, daily mindset training. That was a big thing for me, just to kind of realize, if you just sit down every day, you're supposed to write down things, your greatest fears, or like what's on your mind, right? And then write down 3 things you're thankful for.
Okay.
And then I can tell you, so I had to do this for like a month for this one program I was doing. And not once did it say money, cars, fame, It was family, health, relationships, right?
Yeah.
Even now when I wake up, I wake up and I like to just like mentally say things, right? Like family, love, health, relationships, kids, right? And that's what you think about. So
I do that at nighttime. Like, so before I go to bed, I'll just, try and close my eyes, take a few meditative breaths, and then I don't usually say it out loud, but I'll, I thank the universe. Thank you, universe, for providing me with what I need to, fulfill my life the way I want it to be fulfilled. Things like that. Like I tell myself things like, you are lucky. You are so lucky to have the life that you have. You are grateful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important. We should all be doing that. And it really changes your negative thinking and kind of pivots it to more a positive mindset. Because if you're always dwelling in negative thoughts, like, woe is me, like my life sucks, you're just saying that to the universe. So the universe is going to give you that. Mm. So if you start telling the universe and telling yourself like positive things, it's such a night and day switch. At least for me, it was. It totally changed my mindset on thinking. Because I will admit, the last 5 years was pretty, negative Nelly was me. So it did take a lot of time to kind of switch that thinking process into a more positive one. But yeah, I think everyone should be doing that.
Yeah, and one thing that was interesting, so the thing is, like you said, you talk about like your fears or whatever.
Yeah.
Or fears or things that are on your mind, right? So be like, what's on? So anyways, like, okay, you write a couple things. What's your fear, right? Like, oh, I'm going to fail at this business venture, or I'm not going to get that promotion. I'm not going to whatever, right? And then all of a sudden it became things like, I'm just like, okay, well, I mentally got through of the fears. And then it's like, okay, well, then I decided to switch into like, what's on my mind, right? Like, shoot, got to call the bank. Okay, right now I'm putting on my calendar right now. And I would do this at like 6 a.m, whatever, right before work because you're supposed to do it first thing in the morning, right? So it's like just real quick, like, okay, got to call the bank. Got to get this ordered and this and that, right? And then so I just put it in my calendar right away.
Yeah.
So because I would just make lists all the time, and it would just be sitting there on the board. You know, like,
and you're not ticking anything.
Call
off.
Whatever, but okay.
All you
cool.
did was just write it down.
Yeah, I got to call the cell phone company. Got to call this 3 months later. Still got to call the cell phone company, right? Still got to do this, as opposed to actually making a date. So, I mean, we can finish off today's thing just talking about we goals for the new year, right? So a lot of people are making goals, and I'm a big follower of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he said, I don't make lists, I just do things. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of my motto is, consistent. Another friend of mine, he does, helps people out with like trauma and stuff like that. And he's basically a life coach. And so he was like, what's the word of the year? And his was love.
For this year?
Yeah. His was love. He wanted to, see love in everything. And so mine was consistency and consistency in taking action. So instead of making goals, I made my plan for 2025. So I have a plan to do and so I've got dates for it, right? So by the end of next week, I have a plan to do something, right? Yeah. It's by that date. It's, by the end of January, I have things. Mm-hmm. I have things July that I want to do for work or business related, right? Fitness, I have fitness goals. I try to do a fitness goal every year. I mean, that's something someone should say, right? So you should have a business, a life goal, and a fitness goal. And so last year I did a triathlon. A couple years before that, I did a marathon. Before that, it was a half marathon, right? So certain different things that I wanted to do. So I have my fitness goal for this year. I have a business goal as well, right? Relationship goals, I mean, same thing, right? So what do we want to do for vacations, right? So we've already figured out what we're doing for family vacation this year. So I know I need to have this much money by August, right? I need to have this much money for, my business ventures that I want to start up this year. Yeah. When am I going to start? I need to have a website built, for instance, for this at this time, or or something in place, right? Like a business registered, whatever you're doing, right? So I've got plans. It's not a goal. It's not a list of things I want to do. It's a list of things
that you're going to get.
That I'm going to do.
Yes.
And I was just listening to, another podcast about, this is a good thing too. If you're doing something, just put on like a podcast or something. That's what I do. When I'm driving, I almost never listen to the radio. I listen to podcasts or books on tape or something, right? So I'm able to get that extra learning in a day, which obviously some people can't. But they were talking like, okay, it's New Year's Eve 2025. You're going to look back on the previous 364 days, and will you be happy with what you accomplished? Right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, my goals that I have, it's going to take some work, but I know that they'll be achievable based off of.
Yeah. And I think it's important that you're choosing achievable things. Like, people need to write goals and write plans out, but they also need to keep in mind that it also needs to be achievable, right? Yeah. So don't go saying that you're going to do this, this, and this, but you have no way to achieve it.
Yeah. And so I know what the work's going to be to get in there. We talked about it, put it down. Okay. We know this is the cost that, things are going to be for vacations. Okay. So now I've got, now till August for what we want to do for our family vacation. I have from now to August to figure out how is that being funded, right? Is it being funded by some of the money we have on the side? Do I have to find, an alternate means to make extra money?
Do I take on more hours? Do you need
to work, how many more hours do you, if you work an extra day every week, how much is that? Can you help someone do, a side project, to help someone do, frame their basement, there's all these different things too. I got stuff that I can sell. Yeah. There's all these different options out there. Do we cut back a little on spending right now, right? Yeah. So, we got rid of cable, a while ago, right? Yeah. So there's $100 a month, right? So now, okay, so that's $100 a month, save that for a year. That's an extra $1,200. And so that's, okay, so that's $1,000 out of our vacation. Yeah. And just working back that way. And so now, now I can think about, okay, and now my brain's going, right? And so when, again, all you think about is a red car, you're going to look at red cars. If all you think about is negativity that we just talked about, negativity. Yeah. If all you think about positivity, you're going to be happy every day. If all you think about is opportunities that are out there, okay, so now the opportunities are spinning. And so now obviously you can just sit there in your basement and think about opportunities, but if you're not actually then taking action, right? So can you go to a networking event? Can you, take the chance, right? I can't believe the amount of things that I've done just by shooting a quick message to somebody and they go, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do something. Then, so now I'm fostering those relationships. What will come out of it? Who knows, right? But maybe if it won't benefit me, it'll benefit somebody around me, right? And then give, right? That's what I give, right? Instead of give, then take, or, give, then ask. Just keep giving. Yeah. And that's my motto too. Like, just keep giving, and the consistency will compound.
But also, you giving, the universe will give you back.
Exactly.
Right? Like, so.
And I have no need to, like we talked about last week too, right? So we're so fortunate that we're living in we're lucky because we're sitting here reminiscing here, and hopefully anyone who's listening to this has gotten something from it. But you know what? Us giving is actually helping us. Yeah. Because here we are communicating. It
fills our cup.
We're communicating and we're discussing about all this stuff too. Yeah. And bouncing back and forth, right? And I hear your opinions, on a mom who's struggling. So I know that, let's think about that. How did my wife think about that story that she heard? Some people just hear these stories and they laugh, and sucks for them, and away they go, right? Where we're lucky, hey, we're provided with this opportunity where we can sit here and discuss about this and reminisce and think about this. And when we're done here, we'll be thinking about even more. And as we keep going through week after week, how fortunate are we that here we can sit now. We've got this dedicated time where, for 40 minutes to an hour, we can sit here and discuss this, and then we're going to discuss more of it. And then we've got time at night that we're going to discuss things. And so,
Yeah, yeah. And also allowing yourself to try new things,
Yeah.
right? Like when you had mentioned like, oh, let's do a podcast, I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was me that was asking every day this week, so when are we recording the next one? When are we recording
And then of
the
course,
next one?
and then so that's the thing. I just talked about this on a video about someone told me about this rule, and it was like the 60% rule. It's like if it's 60% good, just do it. And then see, right? So, you know, if you, let's say you're writing a book, you're never going to make the thing perfect the first time. You're going to waste, right? Send the book out there and see, right?
Yeah.
Why they have pilot episodes of TV shows and they do screeners for movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same thing in dating and relationships, right? Like sometimes you hit it off, boom. Like like I said, we hit it off right away as young kids. But sometimes you got to have 100 dates to find that one. And so you should never look at it as a failure, right? It's just, everything should just always be a learning opportunity. Same with kids, right? You yell at the kids, that doesn't work. You put them in their room, that doesn't work. You take away their iPad, all of a sudden, hey, well, we're all going to get my iPad back. You got
to figure out what their currency is,
right?
right?
And so it's funny. So these guys were talking about that too, right? Where it's just like, you know, my husband's love language is physical touch and gifts or something, right? And hers is communication, but it's like,
no, hers is acts of service.
Yeah. And so like, and how, you know, unfortunately, but who knows, did they have that discussion ever?
Yeah.
And,
well, I never really knew about the love languages until, a few years ago. And I was like, oh my God, this is my love language.
But you think about
so much sense.
But you think about the love languages and what makes a successful relationship. Like, but again, it's as simple as trial and error.
Oh yeah.
My wife is mad that I didn't clean the kitchen when I was done with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, so maybe she likes acts of service,
right?
Right, and so it's.
But I think,
it's
having a general knowledge of the love languages is important, because I do see some benefits. Like, you know, if yours is acts of service and I do everything but acts of service, I'm not filling up your cup.
Yeah,
I'm not showing you what you need. And it goes both ways. Like if I'm acts of service and you're just giving me physical touch and quality time, I'm going to say, hey, like my cup's not getting full, and you may take that the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right?
But then also you have to think of is that, but don't forget about the other ones though, right?
Oh yeah.
Because
everyone needs all the love languages.
Just because your love language is gifts, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, he buys me whatever, a gift every day, something small, right? Even if it's like, oh, he brings me a coffee every day.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love that. But
you know, quality time is also good.
But it'd be also nice if you did the laundry every once in a while.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think everyone needs all the love languages shown to them, but there's always going to be one that is a little bit more primary. But I do believe everyone needs to be shown all the love languages.
And I joked about this and put a little meme up, right? Like I come down and there's our oldest son actually doing the dishes. And it's funny because you said that you had told him to do it, right? But it was just like, oh,
yes.
Like, holy smokes, this is done right now. If we could just clean up the crumbs in front of the toaster.
Yes, exactly.
And put your dishes in the dishwasher when you're done. And not leave a cup on the counter, we're good, right? So we got one. And guess what? Hey, today, guess what? He was doing the dishes, right? So I joked about that with him. I'm like, here, I'm making a meme right now about this very situation, how you did, right? And so, you know, is that it, right? So we just had to have a joking thing about that, right? And, you know, and maybe the kids are like, hey, oh, wow, listen, no. And now maybe, you know, the kids are learning that too, right? Oh, that's all I have to do is they're happy if we just do the dishes. And then, so you start seeing like, you know, as a parent, acts of service is a really big thing, right? And so, helping out in everything, in all aspects, right? And, you know, some people, you know, like, oh, you know, they'll, you know, parents say like, oh, my kids give me a hug or whatever, right? Like all the problems melt away, right? So then, hey, as a parent, you know, that physical touch is there. I mean, for me, I'm not like a big hugger or anything, right? So I'm not sitting there, but I'll just jokingly hug the kids, as a thing,
Oh.
right? And thank them out, thank them. Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
guys. And give them a hug or whatever, right? Just because
I'm not a hugger, but I
be-
enjoy hugging
because
my
we're
kids.
we're joking around, right? But who knows, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's actually hitting something with those kids, right? And
Yeah.
we help them out. We help them out with school and not to be too hard on our middle son. Like he got bad on one math test because he screwed up on something. He said he didn't have enough time, whatever, right? He was so worried that he was going to be in trouble, right?
No, with me.
Yeah, with you, right? He's like, Mom's going to be so mad at me. But then also because you're always like, oh, wow, you did so good. I'm so proud of you. So, I mean, in that case too, right? Where like, how much do you say, how much do you value marks versus
I'm more of an effort.
Versus
if
the
I
effort,
see the
right?
effort is being put in, if I see the efforts being put in and that they're putting in some, quality time into trying to be better, in academically, that's all I want, right? But if they have crap grades and they're putting crap effort into it, I do tell them, like, I know you're capable of more. Like, I always try to give like positive reinforcement or positive encouragement, and a little bit of like self-confidence boosting. I think it's important for them to hear, like, as they're going through school, because I think a lot of times our kids forget, like, we were their age once at one point, right? We're not stupid. We know what kind of things you're going to be doing as a teenager. You try and be all sneaky, but you have parents who were your age once. So again, the effort is all I need.
Yeah,
right?
and then you just say, right, like, are you happy with that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they get graded on their effort for like organization and stuff, right? So like, okay, you got all S's for satisfactory, right? There's good, there's excellent, satisfactory, or needs improvement, right?
You have to be happy.
Are
with
you
what
happy
you
with
get.
that? Are you happy with the, you got a 60 and whatever, Matt? Are you happy with that? If you are, then cool.
Getting cool.
Now,
all right.
if you say I tried my hardest and I couldn't, and I don't know why I'm doing that, then okay, well maybe they just need help. But if they say nope, I gave a 60% effort and I got a 60, or you got a B because you didn't talk in class, or you just hate presenting, and you're fine with that. But if if the kids actually said, hey, I can't believe I didn't get an 80. I've been putting in all this effort, right? But if you put in a 60% effort and you're good with that, right? It's no different than, like I said, right? We just talked about that, right? You put in that 60% effort. I post a video online and I only gave it 60% and it only got a couple of views, let's say, right, as an example. I deserve that.
Yeah.
But man, if you put all your hard work into there, like what are you missing, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you just need a little bit of help. Maybe you just got to put a little bit more work in, maybe edit something a little bit different. We're just talking about videos, right? Same good thing with school.
Yeah.
And everything's a learning process throughout everything, right? Us doing this is a learning process, right? Last time our settings weren't right on the camera, or your volume's a little low, or maybe you don't, there's just all these things. But if we're not putting it out there, how do we know, right? It's like you build a building.
Yeah.
It looks terrible in the end, right? Or it leaked, or we're continually improving upon everything that came before, right? Vehicles, making it more energy efficient. And so why is your relationship not the same way, right? Like, okay, we got in an argument. Okay, let's recoup. Let's think about that. How can we not get in an argument in the future?
Yeah.
How can we improve
upon
this in the future?
Yeah.
And if everybody in the entire world were thinking about that, and we thought, like, how do you end wars? Everybody just decides we're not going to have a war anymore. It's the same thing. How do you improve the relationship? How do you improve the relationship with your parents? Just decide that it sucked. Whatever we went through sucked, but let's change this. Right? Same thing with our kids. Like, oh my God, like, yeah, like, oh, it's so frustrating, right? But like, they are the way they are because of how we treated them.
Yeah.
Things we did, things we said, things that we didn't realize they were picking up on, right?
Yeah.
It's for everything. Work, right? Like, why am I
getting... the message, the takeaway is, like, never stop trying to be better. Even if you think you're the best, there's always room for micro improvements, right? So I think it's a good takeaway is, don't stop trying.
And do stuff that does give you those wins, right? So I mean, we talk about like fitness and working out, right? So you just, I want to run a kilometer today and then a kilometer and a half, right? Like how do you what's the best way to get started in the gym? To go to the gym for 5 minutes on on the treadmill.
The hardest part is just putting on your shoes.
Like, I was listening to a personal trainer talk about that, where he's like, the first day it was like 20 minutes. We did a 10-minute warm up. The guy like went through like all the different machines and he said, "See you tomorrow." And the guy's like, "Let's keep going." He's like, "No,
nope, yeah,
this is it. This was your win.
Yeah,
you did 20 minutes today. You did 10 minutes. You did 2 push-ups. You did 2 sit-ups.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's like I go to the gym. I can't do like a wide grip pull-up. And I used to be able to do like chin-ups like nothing else, and I can't do them anymore, right? So it's just like, boom, 1. And then after like 2 weeks, I got 2, right? Yeah. And it's the same thing, right?
It's all those little micro wins,
and I'm not going there and I'm not going there and putting like, 4 big plates on either side of the bench. I failed, right?
Yeah.
But I put a 45-pound on each one, and I did it. Then I added a 10-pound. Right. Same thing with relationships, right? Like we got over 1 year, 5, we had kids, we got over the 10-year hump, we talked about, and now we're like, okay, now we're on like cruise control, and we both agree like things are going pretty smoothly right now. Okay. So how come now we take it to the next level? And it's everything, business and cars and growing and life and creating those relationships with friends and families and compounding and stop being so greedy and self-centered and start thinking about everybody else. And that was just what we were talking about before, the give. Just keep giving. If everyone just gave, and we used to be like that, right?
We did.
Before we had money and we were just trading, and I'm going to give you some bread, you give me some corn, I'm going to help watch your kids while you go help my husband fish.
Exactly, yeah.
And the village concept. So just wrapping all this up, right? Just give. I think that's just a takeaway for this week.
And never stop trying, right?
Just try and give back as much as possible.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. It's a saying hi to somebody. It was one thing that people were talking about.
Or being nice to yourself. Just give yourself those little positive, comments, right? Like,
you're doing this. You are alive. You survived another day.
Yeah.
You won. You survived another day. You won.
Yeah.
Right. Talking back to like, what would you say last week? You talked about what would you say to yourself 20 years ago? You won. You're winning. You're gonna win.
Yeah.
You are a winner.
Yeah.
And take that away for this week.
Yeah.
Give and be positive.
Yeah.
Because you survived another day.
And you got this.
And you've got another. And every day is a new opportunity to succeed.
I agree.
So with that, we hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And again, you can check us out, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you want to find us online, like I said, you can find us on YouTube, Life of Love, search there. You can reach out to me, just search me up on all social medias. I'm the Adam Finch. If you guys are interested in any, if you're in Canada, really worldwide, you can ship. Steph has her own business, Enchanted Beatings with an S.
Enchanted Beating.
Enchanted_beating, ING. On Instagram, you can check out stuff that Steph's doing. She's got some markets.
It's very early stages. I'm not very good at the social media.
But again, this is the try, right? So you tried. You've had a bunch of different events that you've gone to and made some money, and you see what sells, what people are buying and selling as you grow, a personal business, and I grow a personal brand online, right? Yeah. So check us out. Like I said, Enchanted_beating on Instagram. If you want to check out some of the stuff she's up with, I'm the Adam Finch on all social media, THE Adam Finch. And check out our YouTube for some clips. And with that, have a good week, and we'll see you next show.
Bye-bye.